What's up, YouTube? I'm the Vanilla Nerd, and today I get to do something I've been wanting to do for a while, and that is review a TV show rather than just a movie. So today I'm going to be reviewing Justice League, the animated series, Season 1, and I am stoked to be doing this. I have always loved the Justice League TV show, and so I'm so excited that I get to do that now and today. But notably, I said Season 1 because I would not be reviewing anything from Season 2. I would not be reviewing the entire series, but I do believe in reviewing TV shows season by season. I think episode by episode is just a little too much for me, in the sense of that's too many videos to make and not enough material in each video, because it's just one episode, or one or two episodes, So it's not my preferred taste. Now, I think there's a benefit to that. Don't get me wrong. I think there's a space for that. And I'm not saying I won't do that. Maybe in the long future from now on, far down the road, I might do episode by episode. But that's just not what I'm going to do today. Mainly because I think reviewing a series by episode is a little unfair in that, every season's going to have an episode that they just didn't put as much time into. They didn't have the time to do it. They didn't have the money to do it. I don't know. There's so many reasons where it's just like sometimes you just have a bad episode, and that's okay. I don't fault the series for that. When your show is consistently good and when you nail most of the season, that's when I think you're a good show, not if every episode is something that I absolutely love. So, yeah. Anywho, as always, obligatory spoiler warning. I will be spoiling all of Season 1 of the Justice League, but none of Season 2. So if that's your thing, then don't worry about Season 2 being spoiled. But yeah, I will be spoiling all of Season 1 of Justice League, the animated series, so be prepared for that. Okay, so starting off my review of Justice League Season 1, this is a great start. It's not perfect, and I have my issues with it, which I'll talk about later, but I really like Justice League Season 1. And not the least of which because it's the first of its kind, bringing superhero team all together and regularly showing the team. Now, obviously, not every episode had every single character, and I think that was very wise on their part, breaking it up. And I also made the world feel more realistic in the sense that, not every calamity needs all the heroes all at once, And for those episodes that did affect the grander world and the bigger thing, you did bring in heroes from the outside to support the issue and support the problem. So I think they did a really good job balancing all the characters. Again, it's not perfect. I think Flash and Hawkgirl especially got the short end of the stick and didn't get as much attention, but it is what it is. And in a stroke of brilliance, I would say, they gave less attention to Batman and Superman. Those two already had their own shows, a lot like the MCU, although this one came out first, which is kind of fun. But those two already had their own shows, so we already knew who Batman and Superman were quite significantly. And even if you didn't know, even if you hadn't watched those shows, everyone knows Batman and Superman. They're two of the biggest superheroes in all of the world, not just DC. So to put that higher emphasis on characters like Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Martian Manhunter made a lot of sense and was really, really quite cool and quite entertaining and fun. And I just really appreciate the balance, the balancing act they did, making sure all the characters got their chance to shine. Because even Flash and Hawkgirl got their time to shine. Same with Superman and Batman. So yeah, and that leads into my next big thing that I like about this show, and that is that while not perfect, the show was really well written in terms of writing characters and obstacles for our heroes to fight. The villains seemed competent, and they were able to take on, it was not unbelievable that they could take on characters like Superman or Wonder Woman or Martian Manhunter, who are very, very powerful and stuff. And that is very impressive because the common complaint I hear with DC all the time, all up and down, is that because their characters are practically gods in terms of the level of power and abilities that they have, it's hard for people to write for them and it's hard for them to have enemies that are credible. But I think this show just does such a good job of refuting that. Every time Superman gets punched back or knocked out, I believe it, Every time Flash struggles to use his super speed, it makes sense. It's fine, When John gets hit by electricity, Martian Manhunter gets hit by electricity, it makes sense. That's a lot of heat, and heat, as we know, is their weakness and their struggle. And so it's very, very interesting and very well done, in my opinion. And so I'm going to be talking about both of those, writing good enemies and keeping their power levels up here in a bit. But I just wanted to get that out of the gate and just talk about how this show really did a good job balancing the DC characters and stuff. And so what I love about this show more than anything is that it is character driven first and foremost. You fall in love with the characters, not their abilities, not their backstories, not the plot. You fall in love with the characters. And I just love that about this show. All right, so jumping into the characters, let's start with Batman and Superman. Now, as I said before, they both had their own TV show, and so it makes sense that there really weren't that many episodes that focused especially on either one of them. Now, this isn't to say they didn't have their time to shine. Specifically, Warworld was Superman's chance, and I think Warworld was a fantastic two-part episode because it showed the essence of Superman so well. He's a powerful hero, he's a good hero, but not just because he does heroic things, but because he inspires heroism in others. And we see on Warworld him inspiring the people of this enslaved world, essentially, to rise up against their dictator, Mongol. And that was very, very good and very fun. And then with Batman, I think Injustice for All is a really good Batman-centric episode, or as close as you're going to get. Again, it's not a super deep character study into Bruce Wayne. They save that for Batman the Animated Series, but it is a really powerful episode where Batman just is kind of outsmarts the Injustice gang. Or Metamorphosis has another sweet little Batman moment where Batman discovers the exact chemical compound for defeating the big bad evil guy at the end of that episode. He stays behind because he knows that his punches and his abilities are going to be better served coming up with this chemical weakness rather than actually trying to punch the bad guy. And so that was just really fun to see Batman being smart and outsmarting things. And there are multiple things like that throughout the season, but those are just a couple of examples. So in conclusion, while Superman only has 2 episodes dedicated to him and Batman has none, we still get to see their key personality traits shine through, and that's really, really exciting, and I just love that about Batman and Superman. Next, we have Wonder Woman, and Wonder Woman gets a lot of time to shine, which makes sense. We've never seen her character before and never even hinted at Amazons before, so it was really fun to get to learn her powers, how she could fly, she's got super strength, comparable to Superman, and she's got her bracelets that can deflect bullets and stuff. She also has her lasso. It's kind of sad that they kept the sword and shield away from her, especially since Hawkgirl has a mace, but I do understand that desire for more of a kid's show to be a little bit smarter and not have a sword that, would naturally cut through a lot of things, and they just can't show that. So totally fine. Plus, the lasso is pretty cool, and it's pretty fun. And what I love about Wonder Woman is that she stands for what's right, often very stubbornly. She just says, that doesn't make sense. And if it doesn't make sense to her, she's going to let you know, and she's going to make it right as best as she can. And I love how powerful she is. Again, being able to go toe-to-toe with Superman is just fantastic and stuff. And she has some great storylines attached to her. It's really powerful to see her exiled from Themyscira. Again, that character-driven plot right there in Paradise Lost. That's the episode. But then also in Fury, we get to see her go up against Arisha, who hates men. And we kind of see the dark side that Wonder Woman could turn into, as if she really carried out, hating on men or disagreeing with them, you could really become quite bad and quite evil. I do question the sanity of that plan that Arisha has to kill all men. It's great, the Earth will live for 1 generation and then die. So doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it is fine. And it was really fun to see that. And then it's also really sad, but really emotionally impactful to see her fall in love with Steve Trevor in The Savage Time. And we see her, fighting the World War II fights, and that's just fantastic. So love Wonder Woman. She's very powerful. She's a very cool character, and I'm so glad she got a lot of time to shine in this first season. Next, we move on to Martian Manhunter. And the thing with Martian Manhunter is he kind of became the punching bag. Because he is just got a wide range of powers, telepathy, phasing through things, super strength, and he can turn into different creatures and animals, he can shapeshift. They kind of beat up on him a lot. They were constantly showing him get punched, get knocked out, get hurt in some way, shape, or form. It's fine. Every team kind of has to have the punching bag, the tank, but it's just kind of sad because I do think he could be more powerful and they could show him being more powerful, but it is what it is. That being said, what I do love about Martian Manhunter is I love the way he's portrayed. He's just that calm. He's got that calm composure, and he's like the backbone to the team. And he really pulls off being an alien quite well because you do feel this disconnect between him and the humans. He doesn't quite act like a human and like an Earth person as much, and that's very fascinating and very, very fun and stuff. And he has some great episodes too, specifically in A Night of Shadows. He has to learn to let go of his family. That is just so powerful, seeing him fight off the illusions of Morgan Le Fay. Very sad. And then in the pilot episode, Secret Origins, seeing him work to save Earth, so he gets his time to shine. It's not as much as Wonder Woman, I would argue, but he still has some real good moments in the series, and I appreciate Martian Manhunter. He's pretty great. Moving on, we have Green Lantern, and he makes for a very strong competitor to be my favorite character of this show. I'm not 100% sure, but certainly I think of the first season, he is easily my favorite character. And I'll leave more of that to a tier list that I eventually do in the future of my favorite Justice Leaguer. But for right now, I do like him, love him so much, especially in season 1. And I guess the reason I love him is just because he's so determined. He's so cool. I love how he's serious when he needs to be serious, but he can still have fun. He never felt so serious that he couldn't take a joke and he couldn't mess around with people, especially with people like Hawkgirl or whatever. But then he does get ticked off at the jokingness of Flash, which is hilarious. One of my wife and I's favorite lines is, "Flash, stop heckling the supervillain," and that's in The Brave and the Bold with Gorilla Grodd. Just hilarious. Very, very fun. Now, Green Lantern gets probably the most amount of episodes devoted to focusing on him. In Blackest Night, he's put on trial. That's not my favorite episode, but it is still cool to see that stoicism right from the beginning. The Brave and the Bold, he helps save Gorilla City and stuff. And I know that kind of focuses on both him and Flash, but he's in it. And he's important. In Legends, those are the heroes from his childhood, that they go to this alternate dimension, the heroes from his childhood. And he has to kind of learn that they died in this universe. Very tragic, very sad, very dark. And then Metamorphosis, where, his best friend turns into Metamorpho, and then there's the whole issue with him seeing the road not taken, kind of, as it were, the burden of being a Green Lantern, and that was just very powerful. But then it was really cool to see Hawkgirl comfort him in that, and I love seeing Hawkgirl and his friendship, just so fantastic throughout the show, one of the strongest things. And so I will jump into Hawkgirl here in a second, but I do want to take a moment just to say that I love Hawkgirl and Green Lantern's friendship. So fantastic. Now, one thing I will say, kind of as a con to Green Lantern, is that especially in this first season, his ring is regulated to just shooting lasers and creating bubbles. It's pretty lame and pretty boring. And it's sad because, for those of you who know anything about Green Lanterns, you can literally create anything with your mind. You can create constructs of anything. And so it's unfortunate that in this show, at least in this first season, they just didn't do that as much, especially when you have an episode like Legends, in which the alternate reality Green Lantern created all sorts of fun constructs, like a catcher's mitt or a jackhammer or whatever. So now I get animation is tough and stuff, and so you can't always afford to do that. So, okay, it is what it is, but, and it does get better in later seasons, but it is a slight little con I have against Green Lantern. But despite all of that, he's still one of my favorite characters, and he's fantastic. So, I love Jon Stewart. He is a fantastic Green Lantern and so fun. So, such a fun addition to the Justice League. All right, so moving on to Hawkgirl. Unfortunately, she did not have any episodes that focused on her. Again, there were plenty of times for her character to shine through, but there was never one that was a Hawkgirl-centric story, if that makes any sense. And that's unfortunate. I know that this kind of gets explained later on, but it's still not an excuse in my opinion. I still think they could have had an episode dedicated to her, and it would have been fine, but it is what it is. That being said, we do get to see plenty of her times where her character gets to shine. Specifically in The Blackest Night, we see her beat up the Green Lanterns because they've lost faith in John. She's like, hey, John's the Green Lantern. He's still a good guy. And if you have a problem with that, fight me right now. And I love how she reminded them that they should stick up for John, even if the cards are against him. Just fantastic. Or in Fury, where she helps Wonder Woman save the world from Orisha, that's the one where there's a plan to kill all the men. And she's like, oh, I'd hate that. I love men. And it's just fantastic. It's just so fun to see her shine through. Or in Legends, where she fumes over being forced to act like a stereotypical 1950s woman, getting coffee and cookies for the men. It was so funny to see her frustrated by that. But then at the same time, she discovers these heroes' deaths, these heroes' tragic deaths, and she brings that sad news to John. And again, that friendship between her and John Stewart, seeing her be like, hey, I'm willing to help you out and stuff, and I'm willing to act like a 1950s girl for you and to be nice and stuff. And so fantastic. And time out, Vanilla Nerd from the future. I wanted to clarify what I just said. I am not in favor of Hawkgirl sacrificing who she is to become a 1950s girl. No, that is not what I'm saying at all. And I am not advocating for her to conform to the gender stereotypes of the 1950s. Rather, I am advocating for her putting her friendship above her own needs. The fact that she has such good friends with John Stewart that she's willing to swallow her pride, be humble for a few hours, act like a 1950s girl, just so they can figure out what's going on in this dimension, and that, she can play nice with the heroes from John's childhood. And that is something that's truly heroic, her willing to sacrifice her own needs for her friends' needs first. And that's what's powerful, and that's what I like about this scene. As a side note, to connect her to D&D, I think she's like a really cool barbarian. She's angry in battle, she's eager to fight, but she also is compassionate and caring for her friends. And I just really love seeing that trope carried out on screen so effectively, to the point where Hawkgirl's one of my favorite characters. She is so fun. Also, her mace is just super cool, with the lightning powers and everything. So, finally we come to the Flash, and while the Flash did show up in an episode of Superman, he has since not had time to really shine. Don't get me wrong, he has his moments, but like Hawkgirl, there's really no episode that's Flash-centric. In The Brave and the Bold is about as close as we got, where, he fights Zod and he takes down a semi-truck with mind-controlled people and stuff, and we see him save some innocence along the way. So he has his moments, but even that episode, The Brave and the Bold, switches focus to Green Lantern and Wonder Woman and Batman and Martian Manhunter, who came to help out with the situation more in the later end. And again, I'm not saying his personality doesn't shine through. I think Flash, the greatest compliment I can give about him is that he's really immature and he makes a lot of stupid jokes, but he really manages to balance that and still be a likable character. A lot of times those kind of characters come off as angry or stupid or dumb or something, but Flash does it in such a way that I still end up loving Flash. I just think he's campy, but he's campy in the perfect amount of campiness. He's just so funny and enjoyable in that way. But it's unfortunate that we don't get more about his character or more with him as the focus of the episode. So yeah. But as I said before, his comic relief is great, especially compared to all these other characters who are generally very, very stoic. So there's that. So, switching gears, let's talk about the plot and structure. And what's really cool about Justice League Season 1 is that the entirety of the season is either two-parters or three-parters. There's at the bookends of the show, there's 2 3-parters, and then at the in the middle of the show, it's just a bunch of 2-parters, which is very, very fascinating and I think really smart because it gave the storylines time to mature and to build up that dramatic tension. And I loved it. And it really gave us time to really get into a lot of these other lesser-known characters and stuff, as said before. So I love that about the plot and structure and stuff. The one thing that's kind of frustrating about this is that it does make the show a little bit harder to watch because you constantly want to watch it in pairs, or in the case of the finale or the pilot, you want to watch it all together, all 3 episodes all together. So yeah, a little frustrating there, but not the end of the world, Moving on, the pilot and the start of the show was just rough. The very first 3 episodes, Secret Origins, are pretty cut and dry and pretty boring. It's just the Justice League coming together and fighting off an alien invasion. And I get it's a little challenging because you do have to introduce 7 different characters and bring them all together in a satisfying way and give them plenty of enemies to fight. But it felt a lot like Avengers 1 in that sense, where it's just the plot, there wasn't much there in terms of plot. Again, not the end of the world, but it is something I noticed and something that I wish was a little bit better. The characters coming together was a little weak. That being said, it did make sense that Batman and Superman, since they already knew each other, would be teaming up against an alien invasion. And Superman's already met Flash, as well as the Green Lantern Corps, if not Jon Stewart. So that all works nicely, and they introduced Martian Manhunter very well. But Wonder Woman and Hawkgirl could have been given a lot better introductions. But it is what it is. That being said, something I did love about Secret Origins is when Batman at the end kind of reveals that he outsmarted everyone by faking his own death. So that was pretty fun. Moving on, the next episodes in Blackest Nights were also pretty rough. I didn't think they were that fun or interesting. They've never really worked for me. John being on trial, not my favorite. I do like the character moment of Hawkgirl beating up the Green Lanterns without her mace. Fantastic. Shows how tough she is as a Thanagarian and how loyal she is to her friends, standing up for John. Fantastic, but still a little weird, a little frustrating. But where I think this show really starts finding its stride is in the next set of episodes, The Enemy Below, where we are introduced to Aquaman, and we get to see more of those characters shining through, the bullheadedness of Hawkgirl as compared to the calmness of Superman, who sues for peace and stuff. And then I love in The Enemy Below, when Aquaman's kind of on bed rest and they can't figure out how to save him, and Batman just shows up out of nowhere and puts him in salt water and is like, haha, I figured out how to heal him. Just so smart, and Batman's such a genius, and I love it. So fantastic. But where this show just is pure gold is in the next set of episodes, Injustice for All. Those are such good episodes. The Justice League is pitted against the Injustice Gang. There's a 1-to-1 comparison. They each get to fight one guy. It's so fun to see them, see the villains trying to outsmart the heroes and stuff. They win, and then the heroes win, and it's just really fun back and forth. And Batman goes and gets himself purposefully captured and plays the Injustice Gang like a fiddle. He knows how they work perfectly. Hilarious. I love how Joker comes in as sort of this rogue element in the middle of it all and causes all these extra problems. Fantastic. And in the end, the characters win because of the character, the well built up character of Ultra Humanite, and that's just fantastic. Yes, and speaking of which, that's one of my favorite things about the plot, is that it is character driven and not plot driven. In Injustice for All, any one of the characters could have betrayed the Injustice League to the Injustice Gang, to the Justice League, and stuff. And I love the red herring of Cheetah; is fantastic. But then, and seeing Lex be a terrible leader and keep trying to bribe them with money, fantastic, hilarious, and very, very funny. And then when it's revealed that it's Ultra Humanite that betrayed him, it just makes so much sense because his character was built up so well and written so well in such a way that it's like, yeah, of course he betrayed Lex Luthor in the end for more money. So, fantastic. Some other episodes that I like to highlight would be Paradise Lost, in which we get a really good mother-daughter relationship between Hippolyta and Diana, but at the end you see the pain and you feel the struggle of Hippolyta having to banish Wonder Woman despite saving their world and stuff. And that's a very mature story where despite everything working out in the end, you still have consequences, you still have problems you have to deal with and stuff, and that was very fun. Or A Night in Shadows, where Martian Manhunter falls prey to Morgan Le Fay's magical illusions, is fantastic. You feel for John so much, struggling with his family. And what I love is that it's not just once, it's not just twice, it's 3 times that he falls to these illusions. And because of his weakness, because of this thing that we can all relate with, losing loved ones, we see him help the bad guy almost win. But in the end, the faith of his friends in him is what breaks him out of it and helps him save the day. And I love seeing the triumph of Martian Manhunter, where he takes the Sorcerer's Stone away from Morgan Le Fay and is like, you cannot control me anymore. Your magical illusions don't work on me. It's just so powerful and so well done. And then finally, we come to the finale of the season, The Savage Time, which is near perfection. And I love this episode so much, these three-part episodes so much, because it gives every character a chance to shine. And it literally does character development for all 7 Justice Leaguers, which is fantastic. And I just love it so much. We get to see Superman be a beacon of hope to the Allied forces. And in the end, when he finally sees Batman at the end and hugging him, because it's just he was worried that he wouldn't succeed in saving the world, just fantastic, so good on Superman's part. Then you have Wonder Woman, and she befriends Steve Trevor, and I love their relationship, and I love how they fall in love. It's so cute, and I love how Steve Trevor learns, like, oh wow, you are very strong and powerful, and it's just fantastic and so well done. Although it did take her out of a fight quite significantly. I feel like there's more good she could have done by using her super strength, but it is what it is. In the name of telling a good story, I love that. Green Lantern, we've already touched on the fact that his ring loses power, but we see that he's still a competent Marine and still a superhero. Even though he doesn't have his ring, he's more than just his ring. Fantastic. Martian Manhunter, getting to the heart of the problem and discovering Vandal Savage on a laptop. Fantastic. And seeing him break out of the interrogation room and pretend to be his interrogator. I love Martian Manhunter. So good. Flash and Hawkgirl have a nice moment where Flash has to learn the burden of war and making hard choices, leaving John Stewart behind and being forced to take care of the troops that need him right now. So good, especially since we know, he's young, he's immature. Hawkgirl teaming up with the Blackhawks to take down enemy fighters and stuff. So fun and so entertaining. And even Batman, who he doesn't show up a lot in this three-parter, still gets his chance to shine. I love seeing the alternate reality of Batman. His armor and mask are just so cool. But more than that, I love seeing his character, because he doesn't go with the Justice League to the future, because he's always thinking in worst case scenarios. And he's like, if you guys fail, someone needs to lead the resistance back here, so he doesn't go with them. That is such a Batman thing to do. But then at the same time, he's like, I'm absolutely willing to help you change and alter the future. I don't care if the world as I know it disappears. Nothing would make me happier. It's just, it's so good. So literally every single one of the characters gets character development in The Savage Time. And I love that. And then on top of everything else, they all got a chance to show off their superpowers and be really, really cool characters. So I love the Justice League. They are so awesome. Next, we move on to setting. And the first thing I want to say about the setting is that the characters' costume designs are fantastic. I know a lot of it was based off of comics that have been tried and true, but still, it worths being noted that the costume designs are fun and entertaining, and I really like them and stuff. The one thing I would say about the setting is I love that the writers did an excellent job of power scaling the heroes and the villains. Don't get me wrong, it's in no means perfect, and there is a bit of... At one point, Superman's punch doesn't do anything to the bad guy, but at the next point it does, or that could be said of any of the characters. But for the most part, I think they kept it all at a consistent level. Some of my favorite instances of this are like when Orisha is able to punch Superman and knock out Batman because she has Amazon strength, so of course she's able to be better. Or Flash is fast, but he's not smart. He's not the smartest on his feet, and he gets caught in traps and runs into problems and stuff. Or Martian Manhunter being able to phase through plenty of things, but lightning and fire still affect him and Superman for that matter and stuff. And yes, I know I got mad at Martian Manhunter being the punching bag, and I do wish he was less of a punching bag. But again, in the name of showing off that power scaling and keeping it all relatively consistent, they did a fantastic job, And I admit, it's tough with the DC characters, but it's so good that most of the time, I'm not nitpicking each episode thinking, why didn't they just do this? Why didn't they just do that? Most of the time, I'm just like, wow, that makes sense. Yes, he should be able to get hit by that and damaged by that. Oh, he should be able to take it down in that way. Totally fine and works for me. And so I really love that. In short, the writers made sure to keep the characters at a manageable power level so that their villains and obstacles felt threatening and problematic, and they did. In terms of actual settings that Justice League Season 1 goes to, they run the gambit. We go underwater in Atlantis and Aquaman's kingdom. We go to the Arctic, in that same episode. We go to outer space with things like Warworld or in Blackest Night. We go to Themyscira in Paradise Lost. We even go back in time to World War II with the Savage Times. So they do a lot of really cool, interesting locations, and it's really fun to see the superheroes injected into some of these different genres, if you will. And so very, very fun, and I love all the settings. And perhaps the biggest thing I can say in positivity for the setting is the fact that it never feels small. The world never feels small. And one of the ways they do this actually is rather counterintuitive. They actually take Justice Leaguers out. By not having as many Justice Leaguers in each episode, it makes the world feel more lived in and more real. Maybe those Justice Leaguers are taking a break. Maybe they're taking a day off. Maybe they're handling another calamity that's on a smaller scale than the one you're dealing with. And that's fine. But what I also love is that despite them taking them away at maybe the start of an episode, quite often they were willing in the second part of an episode to bring in other characters. We see this in things like Fury, where at the beginning, it's kind of just Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman trying to figure out this rogue Amazonian's issue. But then as we see all of the men get taken down, we see that the male characters of the Justice League all fall prey to this problem. And then what's left is Wonder Woman and Hawkgirl. So fantastic setting. I love the setting of the Justice League, especially Season 1. So good on you. So in conclusion, Justice League Season 1 is fantastic. It's not perfect. Like I said, it has a rough start, and there's some other issues I have with it. But for the most part, I love it. And it's such a good celebration of superheroes. And that's probably my favorite part about Justice League Season 1. There are some absolutely fantastic episodes, even in just this first season, that really show off what they could do. And the show just gets better and better. And yes, I'm considering Justice League Unlimited to be a direct continuation of this thing. I'm not going to make a big difference in that. Essentially, for me, that's Justice League Season 3 for all I care. But that's down the line. What I will say about Season 1 is that they built up this foundation of these 7 characters fantastically. They really did well at telling good storylines, and they only got better and better as the show went on. And and they do as the show goes on in later seasons and stuff. And so it's just so fun and so good. And I can't wait to show this TV show to my kids one day because I know they'll love it just as much as I do.